change life, you're going to have to walk through that process of seeing those things that are there about you. The other things about Christ is that, and I'm going to quote Mama J on this. She says this all the time. The church is the only place you can come in and be assigned to do something without any qualifications. So we put somebody over spiritual counseling who never took a course in counseling. We put somebody over the hospitality that's never led people before. So we don't give them any leadership training, and they think because we put them there, that means that they're qualified to do it, and they're not willing to go through the things it means to make them qualified. So if I'm not qualified or I feel inadequate in what I'm doing, I'm gonna complain about you because it's gonna make me feel less inadequate if I find inadequacies in you. So Christians, a lot of times what they do is they stop at the point of Christianity. So we say this all the time, is that if you're a leader and you don't study leadership qualities and skills, you know, when you're a leader in any job or any walk of life in the world, you're constantly studying leadership qualities, leadership traits. What do you do? And these traits are not just worldly traits, because we'll start saying, oh, that's just the world. But those things are proven and they have biblical basis. They're just not using the term Bible or spirit and those type things. But they went to the Bible to get those those leadership qualities out there. So what happens is that we have people in leaderships in the church that are not qualified to be leaders. So they'll say things like, do it because I told you to do it. When that's not, then you're managing, you're not leading. Leading management means that I'm just managing what's there, telling you put that piece of paper over here, move that here, put that there, don't do this, don't do that. Leadership means that you get to see me, you get to follow my example, and I'm raising you up to be able to lead also. And Christians don't always adopt those things, because the old way of thinking is I get saved and God's going to give me everything I need to know. You know, salvation, I'm saved, so God's going to anoint me to be able to lead this great people. And you're the only one that really don't know that you don't know how to lead.
And you know, it is just like Prophetess May said, it amazes me that we put in for a job. The job has a description. The job has a qualification. The job has an education requirement. And if you don't meet the education requirement, if there's an education requirement and you got a bachelor's and it requires a master's, you don't get considered. But if you come into the church and you tell somebody, well, you know, you need to go to this training before I do this, then all of a sudden now, well, I've been in church for 5 years and I don't think I need to go back. Well, that's the old church. That's why when you get licensed a minister at one ministry and you go somewhere else later, that pastor doesn't have to accept your ministry license that you got at another church, because he don't know you like that. It says that you have to observe people for a while to understand them. And you know, I spent, when I was a GS9, was it a 7? 9. When I was a GS9, I got selected to do a 1 whole year training. And the training was because Marine Corps saw that, hey, let's train people at the GS9 level for mid-level management level, like 11 and 12 jobs. So let's take these people from 7 to 9, you're entry level, basically. So we want to give them some tools. So that we went to training for 1 whole year. We had to do a 30-day shadow, 14-day shadowing of somebody that wasn't in our own job description. So I shadowed somebody in finances. I had to do 30-day job somewhere that was out of mine. So I did 30 days at GS Personnel, what you call it, HRO. And then I had to go back and forth, and I had to listen. And it was so funny. One of the greatest tools they use in leadership was the one about the football with Denzel Washington. I can't remember the name. But yeah, Remember the Titans. And I'm like, what in this have to do with leadership? But what I saw was how someone came into a situation that was a hostile situation. They didn't want him to be there, but he took a team who didn't even like each other because they were all different backgrounds. And at the end of the thing, they all pulled together because if he had not been the right leader, they would not have gotten the right results. And it was not that the coach that was there was a bad coach. He just wasn't the coach for, oh, you better hear me. He wasn't the coach to take them further. And this is for those who need to transition. Where is your next? Don't be 95 years old with a wheelchair rolling up to the pulpit talking about turn with me to Esther, Joshua. No, where's your next? You need to be working yourself out of a job if you're a true leader.
And that doesn't just go for pastor, that goes for anybody. We should always have somebody walking with us that we're mentoring. I was talking to Elder Glenn, and I was telling him that, it's always the older generation, and this is my mantle to the millennials. Who are you following? You got to learn what they've been through. You got to walk with them. There's something that's missing within this generation because we really enjoy sitting at the feet of our grandma, hearing the stories, learning how to do stuff. I enjoy being in the kitchen with my mom and my grandma, learning how to cook. The boys love going to doing whatever it was they did, hunting, fishing, or whatever. They walked beside their fathers and they learned how to do different things. But now the younger generation don't want to learn how to do anything. They think they're just supposed to be accepted just because they're the Joshua generation. Well, Joshua proved himself to Moses, and we've got to be willing to walk with people of the generation before us because we want to learn their successes. We want to learn their mistakes. We want to pick their head. We want to know about it before. I often talk about when we're talking about the racial tension and the marches and things of that nature. I think my generation, my age, is the only one, the last generation that actually went through that era to understand the magnitude of what they're marching for, to understand what was given up, to understand the people that gave their lives, not just black people, but people of every color, to really understand what are we marching for. What are we doing this for? Even when you come down to Martin Luther King's birthday, to the new generation, it's a day off work, it's a day off school. We're not celebrating unity. We're not celebrating how far our country has come and even how far we've got to go because we haven't sat down. We didn't experience it. Then we didn't sit down and hear the stories of our elders. We heard the stories of our elders, so we know the struggle of our generations before. But the millennials don't know the struggle of the generation before. And the honest part about it is they really don't care. They don't care to hear the stories. They don't care to hear the struggle. They don't care to learn how to do anything or to work with anybody. So I'm always telling our baby boomers, where's the millennial with you? Why are you out here doing this by yourself? They need to be doing this with you, because what's going to happen if we're not careful is that when our generation dies, we're going to have a whole roll of people sitting up on the pulpit because they never learned how to pick up a handle or clean a toilet, and all they want to do is bring the word because they want center stage. Y'all hear me fussing now. So what's going to happen when you start your church and you got to go in there and clean the toilet because it's just you and your wife in the church to start with, and everybody else leave because every time they walk in the church, the odor is so offensive because you millennials don't want to clean the toilet. So we've got to really wrap ourselves around the idea that we learn. It's a generational thing, and we learn from each generation. So right now, the millennials should be the muscles, and the baby boomers should be the brains. But the millennial want to be the brains, and they want the baby boomers to be the muscles. So you got 65 and 70-year-old men out there trying to do things that should be being done by 25 and 30-year-old men because they too busy. And I'm done.
Y'all pray for Prophetess May. When she gets on her wagon rolls. But what we also have to understand is the Bible says, so, like I'm going to do my dad, hold on, wait a minute, let me put some Bible with it. The Bible tells us that the Lord told Joshua, he says, Moses is dead. Joshua didn't move in until the Lord said, Moses is dead. In other words, what Moses brought us to is done. Now, as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. So why was the Lord with Joshua as he was with Moses? Because Joshua followed Moses and obeyed everything Moses told him to do. And he gleaned from Moses, which made him a better leader when he led the people. Because Moses was supposed to lead them in, but hear this, he listened to the people. You need to, I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. He listened to the people who tried to tell him what he should do. And he lost his ability to go to the promised land. Some of you are listening to people telling you how great you are, and you're going to miss your opportunity to go where you're supposed to go because you're moving before you're supposed. Moses is not dead yet. Oh, you need to hear me. Moses is not dead yet. Learn what you can learn from Moses. I was really taken back, and I'm almost done because Prophetess May took all my time. I was really taken back as I was watching all of our aunts and grandmothers, and all of them are transitioning, and now I am in the place of them, who was the one we sat around and listened to learn from. I learned from my father. Although my dad taught me a lot of things that I didn't like and didn't utilize, he still taught me the things that I would need in order to survive. So if I ever needed to fix a car, I knew how to fix it. If I ever needed to go hunting, I knew how to go hunting. If I needed to go fishing, I knew how to go fishing. If I needed to grow a farm, I knew how to grow on a farm. He taught me those things, even though as I got older and I was educated, because I was a book learner, not a handman. So those things are still in my mind. I didn't let them go. Hear me. Although I may not use them, I can still use them. Oh, y'all need to hear me. I can still hunt. I can still fish. Don't want to. I can still. It's still there. The problem with the generation that is before us now, it's not there because they didn't learn it.
Well, I almost wonder, because what I hear is like there's a gap, there's a disconnect, right, between the generations. And I almost wonder, the church is always, like you have said, a good playing ground for you to learn different skills, or, not necessarily having to have the degree to be in the position. How the church can be that footstool to create a change. right, to have millennials listen, or to have us, to be able to have the gleaning part. And I wonder, do you think the church is the place? I mean, I'm thinking that, but help me understand.
Church is always a place. The problem in most cases is, and it goes back to leadership again. Most cases, a lot of pastors don't know how to lead, so therefore they miss the connection. I've been blessed that I have followed a lot of great men. I've sat at the feet of a lot of learned men, and I still continue to sit at the feet of learned men. And I try my best to instill in those who will listen to me the things that I have learned, so that will help them. I tell my sons all the time that we are servant leaders. I tell them all the time, we don't know everything. We got to learn from somebody. I'm still learning. So if I'm still learning, you need to still learn. If you see me pick up a piece of paper, you should pick it up. Now I'm at a place where I shouldn't even have to pick it up, because you should be such a way watching me far enough to go, I need to pick that up for him. And I'm learning that, yes, the church needs to, because what the world is going to tell you is, hey, be your own man. Be your own woman. You don't need nobody to tell you what to do. Just do you, boo, and you be all right. Just roll like you roll. You are uniquely made. They use scripture. You are beautifully and uniquely made. Yes, you were, to be a servant of God, not to be your own unique person.
And I think one of the things, and we're probably turning this into a generational talk here, but it's okay. One of the things that I think happened with the generations and the disconnect with the generations is the fact that the millennials saw things in the church that were not necessarily right or kosher, or they saw things that could be done differently and even done better. But instead of positioning themselves to make that change, they just came in like, game busters. And, you're going to hear me, you're going to listen to me, it's going to be done this way, blah, 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 instead of setting themselves up. One of the things that I always tell our grandchildren, because they have a lot of ideas. They know how to do everything, and they have an opinion on everything. And I always tell them, nobody is listening to you, because you have not set yourself up in a position. You have no track record that people are going to see successes that you've had, so that's going to cause them to listen to you. You got to have some successes in life before you think somebody's going to listen to you. And the millennials just want to come in, and we talk about the youth takeover and all of that, and they really want to take over. So they may see, and I'll use audio for an example, they may see some of the older generation in the audio. Instead of going up in audio and working beside that older generation and helping them through that, and being skillful and tactful of how they tell them or how they help them make changes, they want to go up there and say, I can do it better, and you ain't doing this right, and you need to put this there, and that's old school, you need to do this. Well, wisdom tells me that I can make changes without you even knowing I can make changes. You guys are so wise. How do you make the changes subtly? Because one of the things is and I'm not calling us horses, but no old horse want to be put out to pasture. Find something that an old horse can do. Tell them to put the saddle on your back, but still acknowledge the fact that they done rolled a lot of people around the block. And there are some things that you can learn from them. So I think the gap comes in the fact that the millennials are not willing to sit and be taught. And I think media has played a good focus and point on that, because the only thing that really my generation, I'll speak for me, the only thing I knew about the baby boomers that it was more of us than it ever been before. We were the generation where a lot of babies were born. I didn't focus on the difference in me and my parents or me and the generation before me. I respected their wisdom. I did some things differently than they did it. But I didn't go up to my mom, and I don't even know what generation they were. They probably didn't even have generations to the baby boomers. I think they were a generation, but I don't know what it was. I didn't go up to my elders and go, I'm part of the baby boomer generation, and they not listening to the baby boomers. And the baby boom, that didn't start till the millennials. So what occurred that made that shift? That instead of respecting our elders and surrounding them, was it the elders that made the shift? Did we stop requiring that so that the baby boomers were never taught that? So when they got adults, they didn't know how to respect their elders? Because there's still some things, I'm 65 years old, there's still some things I will not say to my elders. But it just floors me how they disrespectful. And not just the millennials, but the generation that, how disrespectful. You know, give them the respect of being older. And especially as we, your baby boomers get older, and you know, as you get older, we're going to need y'all to take care of us. Can I trust that you're going to take care of me? Can I trust that when I need a glass of water, you're going to bring me a glass of water? Or are you going to tell me to get up and go get my own water out of my wheelchair or what have you? Yeah, and bring me back one too, like the commercial. Grandma, can you bring me a glass of water while I'm playing on my video game? We really got to make a shift because the generation I'm concerned about is not the millennials. Because the millennials have the baby boomers to depend on. Who is Generation X or Z? Who is Z going to depend on? Because the millennials are self-centered. It's all about them. So when Generation Z come along, who is going to be their backbone? So we at the church, yeah, the church can build that gap, going back to your question, because in the old days or the older days, there was, I mean, you saw generations in the church. Grandma was there, mama was there, the millennial or the 30-something-year-old was there, the 12-year-old was there, the 2-year-old was there. And they respected and they loved God, but they also loved their church. And we've got to somehow bridge all of that back together.
I think that one of the real problems is parents became friends rather than parents. And when parents became friends rather than parents, we lost that movement. Because my dad loved me, but he wasn't my friend. I was nowhere in the world I ever thought my daddy was my friend. I know he loved me, he provided for me, he whooped me, he corrected me, he taught me, but there was never any confusion as who was the dad and who was the child. When you see mothers and daughters, okay, help me, Lord. I'm finna get in trouble for real. They both got on short dresses, and they both at the same club. That's a problem. Okay, I'm done. I dropped a whole lot of people after that one.
And I just want to, because Miss Betty said something good that said they have to respect us first, then they can hear us. And I totally agree with that. They have to respect us first, and then they can hear us. But the problem come in is that we had a respect for position, not people. And whenever you think that your respect is based on a person and not a position, it's going to always determine what that person do, whether you like them or whatever. There was a time it didn't matter who the president of the United States was. You respected the office. You respected the position that that person was your parent. You know, we had drug addicts for parents. We had alcoholics for parents. We had jailbirds for parents. We had neglectful parents, but they were our parents. And we respected the position. And when we start doing that, when we think we have to like somebody in order to respect the position, that's what get us in trouble on our job. Because when we don't like the person, we think we don't have to do what they say. It gets us in trouble all walks of life. So your respect comes from the authority and the position that was given to you, given over you, whether that position or that authority came from God or if it was set in place by man. You have to respect that position. I didn't have a whole lot of bosses that I particularly didn't like the way they led, probably would never go out and do anything with them. But I was able to sit under them because I respected the position, the authority that was given to them. I respected that.
Amen. So one more question on murmuring, complaining to close this out so we can, like you said, it's becoming a generation thing, right? How do you not sound like a complainer when you are a vision chaser who believes you should always seek to do/be better?
So how do you not be viewed as a complainer?
Vision chaser.
Okay, so whose vision are you chasing, God's or your own? Because God is believes in unity. So even if you have a vision, and I'll take for you, for example, being over young adults, you don't get to create your own vision for young adults. The young adult ministry falls under Spirit and Truth Worship Center Church. So whatever you do, your vision, you should have a vision for that ministry, but that ministry has to fall into the overall vision that God gave this house, which is to reach the lost and the hurting. So whose vision, I would ask first, are you chasing? And number one, you don't have to chase a vision. God gives you the vision. We don't have to chase visions. So God gives you a vision. He may give you ways to do or to act or to perform the task within that vision. But we're not like the world. We're not chasing opportunities. We're not trying to make things happen for ourselves. It says, be ye doers of the word. So we're supposed to be doing what the word says do. We're not supposed to be vision chasers. We're supposed to be God chasers. So if I'm chasing after God, then God's going to show me how to present what God has given me and how it fits in the overall picture of what God is doing right now, right here and right now. And vision is always seeing into the future. So a lot of times how we get mixed up is that God's given us a vision of something he wants to do or something he wants to happen, and we think it's supposed to happen right now. God gave Apostle a vision for Feed the Need long before we had a Feed the Need program. God has taken Apostle past the building because that vision is already being worked on. He's at the next vision, but he can't take us over there. He can go over there and pave the way, but he got to leave us here so we can accomplish that. And then when he goes, then when we accomplish that, he's already laid the groundwork for us to go to the next thing. Vision is seeing past where you are, but it's not trying to pull people there before it's time to get there. So a visionary is always a step ahead of everybody else. And if we're not careful as visionaries, we don't understand that. So we want to know why everybody don't see what we see and why everybody's don't understand it the way we understand it. But if you talk to Apostle now, he's out of the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic. we're still kind of cope with having so many people in the church or whatever. He's already into the relaunching strategies. What we're going to do when we relaunch. But he ain't going to come in here starting doing that now, because he knows that that's for the future, not for now. So visionaries are sort of like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs always got a new idea, a new thing that needs to happen, but they always have to have somebody in their life that can keep them on task, that finish this, then we'll open the next business. But to them, that business is already open and it's already settled when it's still in the preparation stage.
I'm gonna just assume that that person didn't really mean vision, they mean forward thinkers, and they're thinking forward. And because you're a forward thinker, sometimes there may be a conflict. So what you'd have to do as a forward thinker, it doesn't stop you from thinking, but your forward thinking cannot supersede what is going on. You share I do this all the time with my spiritual father. There are some things that I will present to him that he may not agree with or may not move towards, but he never discounts what I say. He just tells me that this is not the right time. That doesn't stop me from being forward thinking. I continue to tell him things, and some things he does, not necessarily does, but some things he agrees with, some things he don't. I don't get offended if he doesn't take what I say. I know that he is forward. He is the visionary for IFOC, and he is my spiritual father, so he's a visionary for me as a spiritual son. So he sees things way before I do. So and I think the problem is we've refused to understand that just because we have an idea, just because we are forward thinkers, just because God showed us something, does not mean that it is the right time. Don't stop being a forward thinker. Just understand that it may not be the time. And we're all out of minutes, but we're not all out of message, but we're not out of time.
How you taking the hostess with the mostest job? Thank you for your time and for speaking with us on today with our questions that we had. Also, my viewers out there, please remember Apostle Perry's Corner on Thursday Spanish Ministry. Hola, hola, Deacon Larry. And then also remember this Friday, ladies, Refuge is having a ladies edition. And we are going to talk about now what? Which you have challenged us to do as millennials. What are we going to do next, right? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about stepping up and getting glammed up, all right, ladies? Put on your faces that day. And then also we have Testify Monday on August the 17th. August the 17th at 6:30 on Zoom, and the ID is 818-2769-7801. Again, all these things in our Facebook page, so please do check that out. And people of the Sanctuary Church, check out your RAM account for that information as well. And then also back to Refuge. This fifth Sunday, Refuge is having a 90s theme, Saved by His Grace. Thank the Lord for His grace so that we can continue to push out those things as millennials and make the gap be no more anymore. But we do, again, as Apostle said, we're out of not out of message, but we're definitely out of minutes. And we thank you for being with us during this time of 5 Live, and we'll see you next Wednesday.